We live in a very trying, very tense time right now because of border issues and because of the controversy over SB 1070, the sensitivity of those of us that might be Hispanic and pulled over just because we're Hispanic, the reality that yes, we need to document workers, but the real reality is that our economy can't function without them either. Univision did an experiment in Los Angeles where they hired 1,000 Americans born here of white Anglo descent, or Anglos. At the end of an 8-hour day picking lettuce, paying them $10 an hour, only 5 of them were still able to finish an 8-hour shift. And they pay the typical Hispanic $7 an hour and make them work 10 and 12 hours. And they do it. So there's a lot of things that the American culture needs to understand, that if you, as an American, can't compete with a Mexican trying to survive, what does that say about you? He can't speak English. He has very little education, but is willing to work cheap, hard, and fast. And if you can't out-compete him in a job interview, you're too lazy or too stupid. as an American, thinking that that's your excuse to keep them over there. What most people don't know is because the labor laws of Mexico don't let them keep a job. After 3 months, you start to get vested, which means you start to own part of the company. And after 5 years, you're fully vested in some company, so that the company has to be sold by the family to pay you according to the labor laws. You become an owner. And it was because the revolution didn't want the rich to keep getting richer without rewarding their laborers, but all it did was create a dividing line where they have to fire good people. So there are no more jobs they can work within a small town, so they have to come up here to survive. So it's Mexico's labor laws that push them up here, and the fact that they can work and have their kids born here and grow up with American rights and privileges of education is why they come, why anybody's ancestors came up here. I like the analogy of the school teacher or the preacher one Sunday. It says, how many people here in the audience were not born here in the United States? Keep your hands up. How many people's parents weren't born in the United States? More hands go up. How many people's grandparents weren't born here in the United States? And by that time, almost the whole church's hands were up. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the United States of America. At some point, all of us immigrated here, had ancestors, except in my case, from my father's side, we were here before the Spanish got here. My ancestors were the first ranchers before the white man even came and knew how to rope cattle. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the American cowboy learned from the Mexican mestizo Indian that was left here when Mexico's revolution kicked Spain out. All these cattle are running around. American destiny, or manifest destiny they call it, as they're pushing west to see all these cattle. They don't know how to catch them. And the little vaquero taught him how to rope, how to catch, how to brand, how to do those things. And the American cowboy adopted the vocabulary. He can't pronounce chaparreras, so he shortens it to chaps. The leather covers it. He can't pronounce espuelas that kick the horse in the high gear, so he calls them spurs. He can't pronounce estribos, which is what you stand in the saddle on, they call them stirrups. He can't pronounce dar la vuelta, which is when you wrap the rope around the saddle, or the horn of the saddle. And that's called dally, because he can pronounce dar la vuelta. Even vaquero turns into buckaroo somehow. Buckaroo is a mispronunciation of vaquero, and if you go to the old Western Tom Mix movies in black and white, he's saying, "Vámonos, buckaroos," you know, because the Mexican vaquero taught the American cowboy. And so for people to forget that is wrong, and then to think that because, you know, our culture and our people and our descendants are, and our cousins are coming up here to try to work, when all they're trying to do is do what their ancestors did, there's something wrong. So there is a middle ground. There is some place we can do it, and we start by presenting music in mariachi as something they can't get upset about. It's a folk art. It's like watching Irish do a step dancer at a jig. It's like watching Italians with their accordions singing, "When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie." You know, every culture has its music, and that's what makes America great. We are not a melting pot. We're a stew. When you bite into the meat, it still tastes like meat. When you bite into the potatoes, it tastes like potatoes. Or the vegetable. But it contributes to the broth. We contribute our identity to the American cultural scene.